Welcome to The Experience Today, where we explore the fascinating intersections of psychology, the human experience, and American politics.
Miss Val, when I'm thinking, paint it
Are you?
black. When we're
Yeah.
thinking, right, paint it black, right? Like,
Yep.
I, my mind goes to tar and feathering.
It definitely could.
My mind goes to tar and feathering, and and based on this political landscape that we're in, um, I feel tar and feathering needs to happen.
Yeah, we need to do some painting it black right now.
Ain't
Well,
that the truth?
where I went with this song is it's like a grand photo and picture of what depression is. And I was thinking about grief and depression, and if you can listen to this song on so many levels. Like, you can just see it for what it appears to be. Like a lot of music, it appears like, oh, somebody lost the love of their lives and they're so miserable, they just can't function in the world anymore. And then carry that sentiment over into how so many young people feel today, especially young people. And the level of looking forward to nothing and being in this depressed environment, the drugs took place in the 60s, which I think is part of how Mick Jagger looked at the lyrics in his songs. He saw like the hardship, the back then, I guess it was, I'm going to say heroin, cocaine, and marijuana. But today it's like, advanced technology in the drug department. But the reason that people do those drugs, especially at a young age, is they can't see the beauty that a happy, gracious person sees. They've lost the spirituality. Look around. I mean, the young people today are being raised in a very communist type environment without God. And, if you really listen to the words of this song, where he says, the cars all look the same, people turn away from me because the energy is so bleak. You can see a miserable person when you're walking past a miserable person. Their energy just
Oh,
screams it.
it's literally like now, like people when we walk around people, and obviously you're around more people than I am in context.
I doubt it.
You have more of a population around you than I do, so that's kind of where I'm
Maybe
based,
so.
right?
Yeah.
But even and I'll say even here, right? People walk around with their heads looking at the ground, not necessarily looking at their phones, but they're looking at the ground. And when you look
Right.
when they look up at you and you're looking at them, they get like frightened or turn on the opposite side and become very like bullyish. Like, what are you looking at? It's like, damn, dude, I was just gonna say hi to you, man. Damn, ask you if you're okay. How's your day going? But no, you acting like that. I won't ask you
And
shit.
they're walking, looking in their phones, and they almost ram into you. And then they look up, and it's like, oh my God! They don't even say hello or sorry. They go around you and look back in the phone. I mean, you're walking in the grocery store, and people are ramming into you because they're looking at those phones. Hence, probably at a big part of the problem. The media and these phones that maybe are a gift when we're home, they are not so much a gift when we're out, because you get disturbed. You're not paying attention to the beauty around you, for one thing, which could be people making eye-to-eye contact and just smiling at someone. It's become an art to do that. I mean, look, I was just in Sarasota, at the IMG campus, and it's just a beautiful place. And the kids there are literally from all over the world. I mean, I heard numerous languages while I was there spoken, and they're young, athletic, you know, probably a very small group of people who have excitement in their lives because they're all competing and they're all like growing on a physical and mental level. Is pretty exciting place. But there's still, I still saw it. I still saw that stare, that computer stare, that takes something away. You will smile at the older people, at the people that are your age and above. But those younger kids, not a lot of eye contact. Just still missing. Even amongst the brightest and probably some of the happier, you know, kids, they still don't connect. They're disconnected from the human eye. They have a different eye now, and it's in that little device that they're walking around with. It's really pathetic when you think about it. I'm not a happy camper in understanding how some of these young people are getting mystified, informed, and really it's a lack of information. It's just information from one side. It's not balanced. So anyway, that just is what it is right now. But you know, my mother used to say things like, misery loves company. When you think about a depressed person, they don't want to be alone in this feeling of depression. And so what they do is they form these groups of anti-government, Antifa. Let's find something that we can connect with other people. It's such an empty. When you look at these maniacs on the mainstream media, and I only see clips of it just because, you know, everybody you do pay attention to is showing clips of the insanity, and you do that too because you have to. You have to see what you're balancing your brain against every single day, saying this just can't be. This cannot be real. I say that to myself every single day, 10 times a day. But so, you know, we are living in sort of an anxiety-ridden, schizophrenic atmosphere. And I don't know if you saw the album cover of the song Painted Black. And it's this profile of a person, and it gets divided up the same profile like 5 or 6 different times, and it gets smaller and smaller as you look at the album cover. And it's kind of the picture of schizophrenia. I don't know. I mean, there are parts of the song that could definitely be just temporary grief. If grief is temporary, for some people it's not. It's forever. But it's loss and grief. But I think today we're looking at loss and grief being a part of people's lives all the time. So I see a red door and I want it painted black. I don't, no colors anymore. I want it to go black. I want the sun to stop shining because I want that nasty weather out there to be a reflection of how I'm experiencing life. I need other people to feel this way. I always, from the first time I heard this song, I always thought of this. So if mainstream media sees it another way, God bless you. I did want to talk to, except Copper's talking, I did want to speak briefly about National Holocaust Day because it is so abused.
Yeah, go ahead.
And, yeah, and so taken off kilter these days. Thank you, Tampon Tim. You specialized in that by comparing Anne Frank and the Holocaust to what our president and the ICE agents are doing by removing true blue criminals. We are not rounding up people to put them in camps and burn them in ovens. So did we reconnect? All right. Oh, okay, good. That's good to know. So I was thinking, if we have a National Holocaust Remembrance Day, I think what we should do is have a National Founding Fathers of the Terrorist Movement Day. How many people would you list in the Founding Fathers of the National Terrorist Movement Day?
Oh my.
That's a long, right?
How far back we going?
Well, we could start with maybe Trotsky, Lenin, and Marx, because in my mind, that's where
Stalin.
a lot of our Stalin, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right? And then there's all the Chinese communists.
Mao,
and
Khmer Rouge.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then the Saul Alinsky aficionado that came over to our colleges here in the USA and pumped it all into the Clintons and the Obamas. And, you know, it's just like we should really have a founding day so that maybe the younger generation would be somewhat curious about how all this garbage got started. Although they might not think it's garbage, they should at least learn the history and maybe consider that what you have here is just a hair bit better. But I know that's a far-fetch. I don't have a lot of faith in the younger generation. I do think, even just looking up the Holocaust, you know, you could say it doesn't exist, you could say it does exist, and still you need to look at it to see what everybody thinks it is. That would be a plus. So, you know, I think just looking at the Holocaust, just because it is that day today, it's been an opportunity to focus on one group, to see the evil and the hatred against that one group based on religion. End of story. It allows those who care to see that this behavior can be carried over to them and go against them. It became personal. It lives today as it carries over to Christianity as well. It's now allowing you to see communism more clearly. Islamic ideology is also operating in this manner. They're both invasions. We've seen historically what humans are capable of. That's the only reason you should look at the Holocaust. That's the only reason you should look at the founding fathers of communism. Because you have to be able to carry over those movements into what you see happening today. And that's that. And Tim Walz can go screw a pig. He's just a jerk. But you know, I think that this morning, like kind of listening to the before news before he sent out Holman to Minnesota, for those of you who are aware that,
Yep.
Yeah, Holman went over there today. And you know, everybody this morning was saying, what is he doing? He's blinking, he's giving these Muslims in Minnesota, he's letting them get away with it. And I'm sitting there like saying, wait a minute. He is not doing that. Who do you think Donald Trump is? My God. You know, he's such a chess player on so many levels. He knows who the enemy is. He knows what's going on. He may not know every facet, but he's got good people around him. And those good people, one of them is Holman. And you know, if you think about it, Rod, how many people outside of our group that has been watching Holman for a number of years because he was working with the Democrat Party. We're aware of who he was and how he was operating and how he was shifted over into this presidency. But now think about how all of a sudden mainstream media is mentioning his name. And they're saying, oh, Trump sent this guy over there. So, you know, what I didn't know is that Holman was a cop. He was a plain old cop before he was working with the government. So Trump methodically took the cop. I could see the cop in him every move he makes. Every time he opens his mouth, I'm like, oh, that's a cop. He took him and sent him to Minnesota to speak to the cops. Pretty brilliant. Who else would you have sent there to speak to the cops? The police officers. If anyone is offended by that word, I'm a New Yorker, so you know.
There's no offense. There's no offense to that.
Yeah. So Holman was able to sit down with the police and say, listen, guys, everybody wants to see an end to this insanity. We don't want to see this chaos. We have a country to take care of, and let's do this together, or this is going to rupture, that was your word, rupture, and burst open into a madness that will define this state. It will define this country. It will define everything we do. So I think that Holman being the cop that was talking to the cops in Minnesota today was a brilliant move. Now, so they got the police to cooperate. That's big, because if everybody is working against ICE agents who are only trying to remove real murderous criminals, we have to stay focused on that for right now, because the average doesn't know and can't understand what's really going on in this country, because they've been trained to think that every person that ran into this country illegally is a good person. And they think they're spiritually, you know, advanced in that thinking. And on some level they are. We're all human beings. We are the world, yes. However, we also have a country. We also have borders. We also have people to protect who are rightful citizens of this country. So Trump then went on to have a conversation with Tampon Tim. Now, if people don't realize what Trump had to work with, I'm going to use the word against, Tim Walz, he had a lot to work with. First of all, the discovery of all the taxpayer fraud going on in that state is pretty directly something held up. You know what he did? He used that card where he showed the guy a picture of his house in the Middle East.
Yep.
This is a picture of your house. Why are you showing me a picture of my house? This is the same thing. He's saying, Tim, listen here. I got you. You have fostered the stealing of money. You have allowed this corruption to go on in your state. I could take your ass down, or I could pardon you if you do the right thing. These are not evil deals. These are, let's make a deal because it's going to be a lot better for you, and you can just slip out the back, Jack, make a new plan, Stan, and you'll be okay. And if you continue on this path, allowing the chaos and allowing the stealing and you don't take down these people for what they're doing in your state, I'm going to fry your ass. You know that that's what went on today. You know it. So I want everybody to be really proud and really grateful for what happened today, for what went down today. And it was brilliant, and it was pure bed Trump. And you know, he went to Iowa today and did a rally, and he walked into a Subway shop. And all the people there, the kids, the little kids, they were so excited to see the president. And that's when he's in his element. Let's face it, he loves the stardom. He loves the attention. He's crazy, man. He's a whack job, and he's a wonderful whack job, and he's serving this country to a T. Now, I'm not saying he's going to succeed in everything he does. There's an awful lot to still be done and an awful lot against us. But one brick at a time builds a house. So I don't want to paint everything black. I don't want to go there. And some days it's real easy to go there, isn't it? You know, I see the girls go by dressed in their summer clothes, and I just turn my head because I don't want to see that. I can't see that. No, I can see that. And I want to see that. You have to want to choose to be happy. You have to want to choose to see the positive in all that's going on here every day. The mainstream media will have you thinking the whole world hates Trump. Trump derangement syndrome. How many people do you think actually have that Trump derangement syndrome? Considering, let's say we have 300 million people in this country. How many people do you think actually have that syndrome they make such a fuss about?
Honestly?
Yeah.
So we're getting in technicality territory, aren't we?
Oh, you could do a percentage.
So
It's a percentage, yeah.
True Trump derangement syndrome.
Yeah.
I would have to say maybe 20%, maybe, right? Now,
Yeah.
if we're thinking, let's take the base, right? Let's take the base of how many people voted for the other team this time, right? It was like, what, 70 some odd million that voted for the other team, right? Let's just take 70 million, right?
How much of it was stolen?
Well, either way, right? Either way, we'll stick with the 70, right? So 20% of that 70 million, I think that's being conservative per se. I'd say no, actually it's probably more liberal. We'll throw 20 out there, 20%, right?
Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, there's another 15 to 20 to 30%, right, of that 70 million. Right, so we're looking at 50% that are really diametrically opposed to Trump. That 30% suffers from a severe case of cognitive dissonance.
That's correct.
I can't call that TDS, right? Just based on the mere fact that within that 30%, the 35, even 35%, are the people that we're seeing in the streets. Those people in the streets in Minneapolis, they're not TDS. They're suffering from a severe case of cognitive dissonance, right? Because they know damn well they shouldn't tear up their town like they did last time, but they want to be heroes and champions to people that don't care about them. Right? It's not about Trump, right? But I mean, by proxy, it is about Trump, but it's not TDS, right? It's not TDS. It's cognitive. It's a severe case of cognitive dissonance, and we've talked about before the outcome of severe cognitive dissonance. It becomes physical, and this is what we're seeing, right? Because they don't know, they don't understand they're in the wrong. They think they're in the right because they've been told this, that, and the third, but they know deep down in these people's hearts, let's keep it real, deep down in these people's hearts, they know They know what they are doing is not honorable or right, and that is what's causing the cognitive dissonance.
I really wonder if they know that it's wrong, if they've ever been taught that what they're doing is wrong. Maybe they think it's just their idea. What they're doing is, and if you look at it and think about paid protesters, that's even more interesting.
Right.
Because yeah, they're now pimping themselves to a force because they need money, or they think it's a good idea and they're getting money and they're getting paid for it at the same time. It's just a fascinating thing to sit back and look at. And I'm at a point where I see this stuff and it doesn't even affect me anymore, like it did maybe 6 months ago. I'm just like, oh, I expected this. We've been talking about this going to happen for a long time. This is not new. And plus, we've all studied history and we've seen it in the past.
Yes, we have. We have completely seen it.
Yeah. So, you know, whether you choose to look back at the 60s and all the riots, and you look at all, even look at all the wars, the ongoing stepladder of war after war after war, the money machine, the military contracts. This is the way all these big shot elites keep their money machine going. I mean, the whole thing is just so ugly and so spaced out. It's such a blessing that we have these computers now and we are able to see what has gone on and what is going on. It's a gift. When you look at all these wars that have been going on and the people had no way to know. All they had was a newspaper every day and a TV that had 3 channels on it and told you what to think. It still tells you what to think, except you have the ability to just move right outside their box and say, I'm thinking something different. So we've been given this gift and this opportunity to learn how to think for ourselves. And it has been a gift, and I love it. You know, I stay focused on that all the time. I do think one of the more hilarious things that has come out of this. Are we taking a break tonight?
Oh, yes, we are. We're actually coming up on break in actually a minute and 4 seconds.
Okay, one of the things I just want to talk about when we come back and open to what you want to talk about is enter Barry and Michael. Barry Soetoro and Michael Robinson just stepped into the picture.
Oh, boy. Oh, boy. We already know how it's going to go down, people. Y'all go ahead and stand up, stretch your legs, relax, all that good stuff. And get you a cup of water. We're going to be sitting back on this break here for about 5 and a half. So stretch your legs, enjoy yourself. We'll be back.
I'm Liz Clayman, and this is the Fox Business Report.
The major averages finishing mixed with the Dow down sharply, but the Nasdaq and S&P 500 posted 5 straight sessions of gains, and the S&P 500 notched its 4th record close of the year as investors digested earnings results from several big-name companies while they await a decision on interest rates. United Health leading the Dow's tumble today. Its stock fell nearly 20%. The health insurer delivered 4th quarter results that mostly met estimates, but issued a soft annual revenue forecast. In addition, shares of health insurers like United Health, along with others, tanked following a report that the Trump administration is proposing barely raising Medicare Advantage payment rates. The Dow winners, Microsoft, Amazon, and Apple. The Dow decliners, United Health, Home Depot, and Boeing. The Dow down 409 points. The Nasdaq higher by 216. S&P 500 up 28. That's your Fox Business Report. I'm Hillary Barsky, invested in you.
This is a Fox
Fox News Alert, an attack on a member of Congress. I'm Lee Silasera. Minnesota Democrat Ilhan Omar approached by a man during a town hall a short time ago when she was talking about the ICE raids in the state.
DHS Secretary Kristi Noem must resign or face impeachment.
The man sprayed an unknown substance on Omar. He was taken to the ground. Congresswoman Omar was able to continue speaking, saying she will remain resilient to whatever is thrown at her. The White House didn't immediately comment. South Carolina Republican Congresswoman Nancy Mace said she was deeply disturbed to learn of the attack despite their differences. A Customs and Border Protection official has told Congress 2 federal officers fired shots during the encounter that led to the shooting death of Alex Preddy in Minneapolis on Saturday. The CBP account says officers tried to take Preddy into custody and he resisted, which led to a struggle. Meanwhile, President Trump says he's making some changes to immigration operations in Minneapolis.
The departure of Border Patrol agents and Border Patrol Commander Greg Bovino from Minnesota is not a pullback, President Trump says.
I don't think it's a pullback. It's a little bit of a change. Everybody in this room that has a business, you make little changes.
The president, speaking to Fox's Will Cain, says Bovino is very good.
But he's a pretty out there kind of a guy, and in some cases that's good. Maybe it wasn't good here.
President Trump dispatched Border Czar Tom Homan to Minnesota to manage immigration operations and meet with state and local officials to de-escalate.
Fox's Jared Halpern at the White House. President Trump is warning Iraq that the U.S. would no longer support the country if its former Prime Minister Nouri al-Maliki returns to power. America's listening to Fox News. As much of the U.S. recovers from this weekend's winter storm, more snow could be on the way for the East Coast.
Another round of winter may be coming this weekend and could affect the eastern seaboard from the Carolinas to Maine. Some computer forecast models are tracking the possibility for a storm bringing heavy snow and high winds to the southeast coast on Saturday, up to the mid-Atlantic and New England on Sunday. Forecasters caution that at this point the models show the potential for another blast of winter, but it's not a sure thing. Something that is for certain, lingering bitter cold temperatures. The National Weather Service has issued extreme cold alerts in parts of the Midwest, South, and Ohio Valley. On Monday, more than a dozen record lows were set across the Deep South as temperatures dropped well below freezing. Tanya J. Powers, Fox News.
A Virginia judge has ruled a proposed amendment to the state's constitution would allow Democrats to redraw its congressional maps is illegal, ruling lawmakers failed to follow their own rules by not adding the amendment to a special session of the legislature. Another Republican congressman from Florida announces he will retire.
Florida GOP U.S. Representative Vern Buchanan will not be seeking re-election this coming November. Buchanan represents Florida's 16th congressional district, including areas south of Tampa towards Bradenton and east of Sarasota. Buchanan was expected to run again this year and even already secured an endorsement from President Trump. He is 74 years old and was first elected to Congress in 2006. Buchanan is the second Florida Republican congressman to announce retirement this month. Representative Neil Dunn of the Florida Panhandle will also not seek a new term. In Miami, Eben Brown, Fox News.
Pinterest plans to lay off under 15% of its workforce as part of a broader restructuring as the image-sharing platform pivots more of its money to artificial intelligence. I'm Lee Silasera. This is Fox News.
Welcome back. Appreciate y'all hanging out for a minute. Make sure you are doing the things. You like, subscribe, all that good stuff. Make sure you're following us on Patreon at patreon.com/TOLMF. Woo! I can't get it out straight, but you already know. You seen it on the screen. Make sure you're following us on social media. Torture Living Media Foundation on just about every single platform except for Instagram, which Instagram is me, Titan of Liberty _. You can find me over there. And also, and you can find that anywhere, really. But still, do the things for us. If you're on iTunes, all that stuff, send a recommendation for the show on that, please, so we can get this thing in the algorithm. Because 2026 is going to be our year to jump into the top 50 with this show. This is going to be it. This is the year. This is the year we're going to do it. There's no other year we're going to do it, but this one. And then we'll just have to follow up with the years after. So make sure you do the reviews and all that good stuff on iTunes, Google, wherever, Spotify, all those things. Make sure you do the things over there. So you had mentioned at the break about Barry and Michael, and you know, before we slide too much into that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Something I want to bring it up when we were talking about the song itself, right?
Yep.
And the nihilism that comes out of that song, right? Because if we look at Paint It Black, the whole song, I'm talking about the song as a whole, right?
Mm-hmm.
It can be deemed as a rejection of what I would call, and I want to stay in the time the song was written, right? And I want to just apply, because remember, this song came out during the Vietnam War, all that stuff, right?
Yep.
And the nihilism this song exudes, right, is the rejection of, what's this? Remember Technicolor? Remember Technicolor?
Sure.
Right, when it first came out, right?
Yeah.
The Technicolor propaganda, right? The bright and shiny, hey, here's what we got, right? But ultimately, it also mirrors a society of that time, right, that had seen too much red, right? Rather it be a semi-red scare, right? Communism, right? Or blood, right? Because we lost a lot of people in Vietnam, right?
Yes.
And it chooses, in a sense, to shroud the song, towards the end, tends to shroud everything in black as a mourning for a lost sense of, I would say, for lack of better words, national innocence, right? Because we've lost our innocence in all of this.
Yeah, we have.
Right? We've lost a lot of our identity through this, and as these people continue to be imported into this country without vetting, that don't stand up for our values, we will lose our national identity. And that's what they want. That's what these other people want. It's not necessarily the people that are coming across the border, right, per se, but where they're being placed and what they're being told subverts everything in our being. But on the other side of that, Ms. Val, I still hold on to hope as more and more Americans, or United Statians, or whatever you want to call them today, citizens of this land, begin to actually see what's being spun. And right now, I don't want no part of it. And a lot of them are in that realm. But on the flip side, there's a lot of people that I know that have completely went off the deep end into the 100-foot part of the kiddie pool.
Yeah.
Right? And I'm just like, how'd you get there from there? Is it a grift? You're going to sell your soul and other souls, right? For money, for cash? Like, what are we doing? Right? But
yeah,
that's
it is the communist lens, isn't it? It's
yes.
like seeing through the communist lens.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I'm gonna let you get to Barry. You got something on Barry over there. Let's hear what you got on Barry. What are we talking about, Barry?
Well, rummaging through the American Thinker today was this article on, the guy says, enter Barry and Michael. As might be expected, Barry has been biding his time waiting for the right moment to fan the flames, side with disruptors, cover for the fraudsters, and cheer on the adversaries of freedom. And I thought to myself, I was just mentioning to my daughter this weekend, who I spent some time with, I said, I was giving her the whole rundown on what she's got all wrong, you know, being the New Yorker that she is. And I said, and you know, the Obamas, they have caused more trouble. And anyway, they're both two gay guys, and those are not their children. And she says, Mom, now you're being conspiratorial. And she pulls out a picture of the family. And she says, look at how beautiful these kids are. They look just like them. And I'm looking at those two girls and I'm saying, they don't look like them. Yes, they do. There's the cognitive dissonance. If you so believe the show that they put on, and I've seen old pictures of them together, man and man, and if you look at Michelle walking, I mean, honestly, she looks like a football player walking. It just, you know, you see what you want to see is the story in that. So, you know, we have to look at, to have a beautiful picture here of he and she, or it, standing there in these white long gowns of like preachers, you know, preaching the truth in all white. Because they're not going to paint it black, they're going to show you the white. They're going to show you the heavenly, beautiful part of not being an American. So, you know, for years, where did they go to school? Well, actually, there's a lot of controversy about where he went to school. And she, I think they're both from Pakistan anyway. I'll just jump to that because it doesn't even matter anymore. They've done the damage they've done by setting this country up. Where did he come from? Who the hell was he? Who really knew him? Who really, they just bought into this belief system, hope and change. We're gonna change this country. We're gonna have joy, Kamala joy. You know, it was all part of the same thing. It all fed off of his wave. He was the first wave on the surfboard. So it says here, with the finesse of the serpent in the garden, the community organizer and his bitter wife decided that rather than encouraging calm, they'd seize this opportunity to embolden violent activists to continue risking their lives by resisting the federal government. So they were quiet for quite some time, and now enter Barack Obama. You know, there he is again. This is his opportunity to bring forth everything he worked on all those years. Now is the right time to grab a hold of those communists we've already trained, and let's pull it forward. Let's bring it on. You know, let's manipulate the weather, so to speak, as they're doing anyway. You know, the ice storm, we had a physical ice storm and we had a political ice storm and we had a weather manipulation ice storm, but we had an ice storm. So just in reading a little further what he wrote, because he says it better than I would. The former community agitators clearly thought it was imperative that they stand in solidarity with protesters impeding ICE's work to root out illegal interlopers who bilked billions of dollars from American taxpayers. After all, Obama does support Minnesota Governor Tim Walz, whose opportunistic hypocrisy includes defending anti-Semitism while having the audacity to compare the children of illegal Somali immigrants to Anne Frank hiding under the floorboards in Nazi Germany. Is this what we're seeing today? Timing is everything.
Staring it dead in the face, like I said last night.
You did. You did. The two have spent their entire careers assaulting this nation's core values and have done so while disparaging our founding document as fatally flawed. Well, you know, we all know, especially from you, Rod, that our founding documents have been severely doctored, i.e. the Ku Klux KKK document. What is that? The
Which one?
You were talking about it last night. The KKK Act, the Ku Klux Klan Act of 1871.
Yeah, I had mentioned it briefly, yes.
Well, I looked it up because you mentioned it briefly. You see, when you're dealing with intelligent people and they say, oh, you know, I don't know exactly what that's about, you open it up and look at it so that you can know what it's about. That's the reason we're so gifted. We read, we write, we research. The 3 R's. So I learned that it was originally an act to enforce the provisions of the 14th Amendment to the Constitution.
That's correct.
And there's those nasty words for other purposes.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. It was President Grant.
Yep.
1865, the 13th Amendment to abolish slavery. And of course, after that, there had to be trouble, right? So obviously they took that 14th Amendment and messed with it. And, you know, this is what we're looking at today, the violence, the terrorism, the African Americans. It was to protect them. It was so that they could live with some semblance of freedom. But you know, there was that other side that didn't want the people to have those rights. Just like we're looking at today. It's important to connect all of this.
Well, even with that, right? Let's into what you said, right? Let's expand that a minute, because I've expanded on it before, but
yeah,
now I haven't gone this far back. So let's go back, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because this is very important to look at what this government did.
That's right.
Right? So the slaves were freed.
That's right.
A military coup of the South got the 14th Amendment ratified, right?
Yep.
So now, right, we're looking, 1868, right? With the 14th Amendment, well, there were no more slaves except for on the Indian reservations, right?
Ah.
Right? But here's the kicker, right? After quote unquote, the slaves were freed, the freedmen were freed, right? The Irish people that were slaves were also freed. People forget that part, right?
Okay.
And we're going through what was going to be the Freedmen's Bureau, which is basically a socialist experiment to get all these poor people back on their feet. I mean, granted, Civil War, the federal government took everybody's wealth, whether you were from slave to landowner, even though you weren't a slave owner, right? They took your wealth, right? So now, watch this. Now that the poor people have decided to start working together, right, and building wealth with each other, well, government said they were still angry about not having any slaves or any type of slave labor, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now the Supreme Court did to your point about rewriting, right? Rewriting the 14th Amendment, right? What happened in 1898, right? Now, remember, this is the start of 1898 is the start of Jim Crow, and that whole thing was happening, right? But 1898 was a decision of United States versus Wall and Kim Ark. That, those of you that remember or need a refresher, that was the Supreme Court decision that affirmed birthright citizenship under the 14th Amendment. Because
there's where the trouble began.
Right,
yep.
right. Even though the Chinese, right, they were still under the Chinese Exclusion Act, right? They couldn't be citizens. So how could a person that has still allegiance to China, no matter how much you denounced it, right? You were still under the Chinese Exclusion Act, right? Not a citizen. Here's the gateway. Now they can create their slave labor. Because if we go back and we look at the railroads, right? Who are mainly the people building the railroads across the country? It's the Chinese. The Chinese were the ones building the train tracks across the country. It wasn't the newly freed slaves. It wasn't the poor white man from the South. It was the Chinese.
Right.
It was the Chinese that built the railroads. And then after the Chinese built the railroads, what did they end up turning around doing? After they got all the Asians, quote unquote, in the country, what happened during World War II? Those same Asians got put in internment camps.
Yes.
I want people to understand we can understand and like the federal government, but we also see what they did when certain particular parties had power. Right?
Yeah.
But I digress. Go
Human
ahead, Bill.
behavior. Yeah, human behavior is just really, it never rights itself. And then this act, the KKK Act of 1983.
Yep.
Okay, so now we're in the times of our lives, and they are vindicating federal constitutional rights against state and local actors today with this act. Article 1 of the 14th Amendment, Reconstruction. So now what we have seen, and one of the reasons I looked this up too, Don Lemon walking into that church, conflict over Islamic groups, especially Texas, Islamic schools tied to terrorist groups, Muslim Heritage Month in all of January. Wait a minute, something is going wrong here. So this is something that everybody needs to pay attention to, because we just keep repeating the same frickin' thing all the time. It's either wars, slavery in one form or another, replacement, color revolutions, over and over and over again. For what? To end up right back where we started. Like running around a baseball field. After you make a home run, you're up at bat again. I'm just really, there's so much to take in here, and to look at this, right, like you just said, the government, the federal government, like, we can't be idolizing it for any specific reason. It's really supposed to be about us. Really supposed to be the people.
Right.
We can only hope that this next election for the midterms, that successfully we can delete the dead bodies from the voter rolls. We can have one-day voting. We can have paper only. We can achieve those few things, and maybe, on some level, we can pull this election off, because even the thought of Congress being stolen is enough to make you want to throw up. Because then we're just going to see Trump's first presidency all over again. And then after that, we're going to be living in a communist country. All we're going to have is a screen door.
Right. That's right.
Yeah, so you know, we have to really get in this fight, and we have to understand. You know, the federal government, like you just said, they take these laws and they take these movements and they take these articles and they shift focus and they make new rules and they amend everything, and they just keep creeping us up on us like spiders that bite. You know,
but please go out in the street and impede ICE. Right, go in the street and impede federal authorities, Border Patrol. Right. Let's do that. Right.
Yeah.
And then act as an arm of the state, please. And then when they come for you, which actually, they are coming for them.
They are.
They're coming directly for them.
You know what? I don't think they're coming directly for them, Rod. I think that they're coming to do their job to get the criminals out. And I think, from what I heard, Walz has agreed, and the cops have agreed, to release the criminals in the prisons that they already have right now to get them out of the country. So this is a very important part of what, you know, they're trying to accomplish here. So just think, if we're having problems now removing really nasty, dangerous people who they've let loose on the street, some of them, they know, the ICE agents know who they're going after. And the people should just open the doorways and say, take them. I don't want them here.
Right.
So, you know, by convincing the local and state governments that this is really the right thing to do for the people, for everyone, imagine that was a difficult thing to do.
Right.
They're really not coming after the people that were paid to be a professional protester.
Well, no. So I'm saying that. See, let me be clear when I say that, right?
Okay.
Because this is the system, right? These people created. They created
Correct.
this behemoth, right?
Yes.
By being lawless in the streets, right? And then Republicans say, no, we need more law and order. So they expand that force. And these people know what they're doing to force that hand, because Republicans and conservatives and us libertarians alike like living in peace, right? But not at the expense of expanding the state. But this is where we've gotten. And then the side of the paid protesters, they know how to use the weapon of the police state, right, to go after people, aka January 6th, right? Because that behemoth is so big, you can't control it, you know, in that manner, and it have order. So they pointed the behemoth at their political enemies, January 6th. But what's happening now is that same behemoth is in the street actually doing its actual job, and these privileged, right, these privileged, so-called privileged people think they have a leg to stand on by defending people that are not supposed to be here, right? And the system is eating them alive. The system they created, they thought they could have privilege over, is eating them alive.
That's right.
Right? That's what I mean.
It's an unfortunate situation. It really is. It shouldn't be this way. And I think if we can find out let's just say George Soros, I'll just use his name as an example. There could be 2,000 people out there, you know, running these paid protesters and this particular business of training people to be chaotic and act out and go into these movements and harm people. I mean, it's insane to watch this and to know that most of them don't even live there. Some of them do, but most of them don't. They're not even from Minnesota. They're from states away. They just decided to get involved with the chaos and the insanity. And the more chaos there is, the more people don't know what to believe and become frustrated and become, I don't want to hear it anymore. And, you know, to go in there with a gun is not illegal.
No.
We should all be able to have guns and protect ourselves. But protecting yourself is one thing, and deciding to shoot a federal officer is quite another thing.
Right.
Or stand in front of a car and have a gun in your hand. Mm-hmm. If that isn't the pinnacle of insanity, I don't know what is. Mm-hmm. I mean, you know, or drive a car into someone. I mean, look, you got to look at this. I saw some interviews today that they're showing people who voted for Joe Biden, who are lifelong Democrats, and they're like, you know, I can't vote for these people anymore. And I have to believe there's more of that going on than the media is going to show you.
Right, I agree.
Yeah.
Hey,
yeah. So we're all good.
We got to roll out like Autobots. I appreciate you, as always. And I appreciate everybody in the good old live studio audience. I want y'all to have a great week. Keep sending your prayers. Keep sending your prayers. We do have a country to save. There's those of us on the ground that are saving America. There's those of us that are on the airwaves saving America. And we also need those prayer warriors to help save America, right? And those of you that don't pray or, you know, don't do all that stuff, still keep the home that you call home, called the United States, right? Do what you can just to help save her from these pretentious people. Anyways, listen, y'all. Love your neighbors. Love yourself. But ultimately, love the people around you.